Lesson 5 for July 27 through August 2, The Cry of the Prophets, read by Dr. Percy Harold. Wednesday, July 31, Ezekiel. If we were to ask a group of Christians about the sins of Sodom, chances are many would launch into a description of its various sexual sins and other forms of depravity. After all, Genesis 19 verses 1 to 13 does depict a sick and warped society more than ripe for destruction. Let's read that, Genesis 19, beginning at verse 1. Now the two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground, and he said, Hear now, my lords, please turn into your servant's house and spend the night, and wash your feet. Then you may rise early and go on your way. And they said, No, but we will spend the night in the open square. But he insisted strongly, so they turned in to him and entered his house. Then he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. Now, before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both old and young, all the people from every quarter, surrounded the house. And they called to Lot and said to him, Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, that we may know them carnally. So Lot went out to them through the doorway, shut the door behind him, and said, Please, my brethren, do not do so wickedly. See now, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Please, let me bring them out to you, and you may do to them as you wish. Only do nothing to these men, since this is the reason they have come under the shadow of my roof. And they said, Stand back. Then they said, This one came in to stay here, and he keeps acting as a judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them. So they pressed hard against the man Lot and came near to break down the door. But the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them and shut the door. And they struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they became weary trying to find the door. Then the men said to Lot, Have you anyone else here, son-in-law, your sons, your daughters, and whomever you have in the city? Take them out of this place, for we will destroy this place, because the outcry against them was grown great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. Interestingly enough, the answer is more complicated than just that. Consider Ezekiel's description in Ezekiel 16:49. Now this was the sin of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters were arrogant, overfed and unconcerned. They did not help the poor and needy. Though clearly the Lord was not going to overlook the other forms of depravity found in the city, Ezekiel's focus here was on economic injustice and a lack of care for those in need. Could it be that, in the eyes of God, these economic sins were just as bad as the sexual ones? Coming after the time of Amos, Micah, and Isaiah, Ezekiel's early prophecies found a similar note of warning of the coming destruction. However, after Jerusalem falls to the Babylonians and its peoples are taken captive, Ezekiel's focus shifts more fully to God's promises of restoration. Question. Read Ezekiel chapter 34, verses 2 to 4 and verses 7 through to 16. Compare God's assessment of the corrupt leaders of Israel with his own shepherding. How does this treatment of the weakest sheep contrast with his methods? Ezekiel 34, verses 2 to 4. Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, Thus says the Lord God to the shepherds, Woe to the shepherds of Israel who feed themselves. Should not the shepherds feed the flocks? You eat the fat and clothe yourselves with wool. You slaughter the fatlings, but you do not feed the flock. The weak you have not strengthened, nor have you healed those who were sick, nor bound up the broken, nor brought back what was driven away, nor sought what was lost. But with force and cruelty you have ruled them. And Ezekiel 34, verses 7 through 16. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As I live, says the Lord God, surely because my flock became a prey, and my flock became food for every beast of the field, because there was no shepherd, nor did my shepherds search for my flock. But the shepherds fed themselves and did not feed my flock. Therefore, O shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord God, behold, I am against the shepherds, and I will require my flock at their hand. I will cause them to cease feeding the sheep, and the shepherds shall feed themselves no more. For I will deliver my flock from their mouths, that they may no longer be food for them. For thus says the Lord God, indeed I myself will search for my sheep and seek them out. As a shepherd seeks out his flock on the day he is among his scattered sheep, so will I seek out my sheep and deliver them from all the places where they were scattered on a cloudy and dark day. And I will bring them out from the peoples and gather them from the countries, and will bring them to their own land. I will feed them on the mountains of Israel, in the valleys, and in all the inhabited places of the country. I will feed them in good pasture, and their fold shall be on the high mountains of Israel. There they shall lie down in a good fold and feed in rich pasture on the mountains of Israel. I will feed my flock, and I will make them lie down, says the Lord God. I will seek what was lost and bring back what was driven away, bind up the broken and strengthen what was sick. But I will destroy the fat and the strong and feed them in judgment. Even as bad as they had been, so as to be compared to Sodom, the Lord still was reaching out to them in hopes of turning them away from their wickedness. In God's renewed plan for his people, they would be back in their land, Jerusalem would be destroyed, and the temple would be rebuilt. The festivals God gave would again be celebrated, and the land would again be divided equally among the people as their inheritance, as we read in Ezekiel 47, verse 13, through to chapter 48, verse 29. Thus says the Lord God, these are the borders by which you shall divide the land as an inheritance among the 12 tribes of Israel. Joseph shall have 2 portions. You shall inherit it equally with one another, for I raised my hand in an oath to give it to your fathers, and this land shall fall to you as your inheritance. This shall be the border of the land of the north, from the great sea, by the road to Hethlon, as one goes to Zedad, Hamath, Berathath, Sebraim, which is between the border of Damascus and the border of Hamath, to Hazath-Hattikon, which is on the border of Haran. Thus the boundary shall be from the sea to Hazar-Enan, the border of Damascus, and as for the northward it is the border of Hamath. This is the north side. On the east side you shall mark out the border from between Haran and Damascus, and between Gilead and the land of Israel, along the Jordan and along the eastern side of the sea. This is the east side. The south side, toward the south, shall be from Tamar to the waters of Meribah by Kadesh, along the brook to the great sea. This is the south side, toward the south. The west side shall be the great sea, from the southern boundary until one comes to a point opposite Hamath. This is the west side. Thus you shall divide this land among yourselves according to the tribes of Israel. It shall be that you will divide it by lot as an inheritance for yourselves and for the strangers who dwell among you and who bear children among you. They shall be to you as native born among the children of Israel. They shall have an inheritance with you among the tribes of Israel. And it shall be that in whatever tribe the stranger dwells, there you shall give him his inheritance, says the Lord God. Now these are the names of the tribes from the northern border along the road to Hethlon and the entrance of Hamath, to Hazar-Enan, the border of Damascus northward in the direction of Hamath. There shall be one section for Dan from its east and to its west. By the border of Dan from the east side to the west, 1 section for Asher. By the border of Asher from the east side to the west, 1 section for Naphtali. By the border of Naphtali from the east side to the west, 1 section for Manasseh. By the border of Manasseh from the east side to the west, 1 section for Ephraim. By the border of Ephraim from the east side to the west, 1 section for Reuben. By the border of Reuben from the east side to the west, 1 section for Judah. By the border of Judah from the east side to the west shall be the district where you shall set apart 25,000 cubits in width and in length, the same as one of the other portions from the east side to the west, with the sanctuary in the centre. The district that you shall set apart for the Lord shall be 25,000 cubits in length and 10,000 in width. To these, to the priests, the holy district shall belong. On the north, 25,000 cubits in length, on the west, 10,000 in width, on the east, 10,000 in width, and on the south, 25,000 in length. The sanctuary of the Lord shall be in the centre. It shall be for the priests of the sons of Zadok, who were sanctified, who have kept my charge, who did not go astray when the children of Israel went astray, as the Levites went astray. And this district of the land that is set apart shall be to them a thing most holy by the border of the Levites. Opposite the border of the priests, the Levites shall have an area 25,000 cubits in length and 10,000 in width. Its entire length shall be 25,000 and its width 10,000, and they shall not sell or exchange any of it. They may not alienate this best part of the land, for it is holy to the Lord. The 5,000 cubits in width that remain along the edge of the 25,000 shall be for general use by the city, for dwellings and common land, and the city shall be in the centre. These shall be its measurements: the north side, 4,500 cubits, the south side 4,500, the east side 4,500, and the west side 4,500. The common land of the city shall be to the north 250 cubits, to the south 250, to the east 250, and to the west 250. The rest of the length alongside the district of the holy section shall be 10,000 cubits to the east and 10,000 to the west. It shall be adjacent to the district of the holy section, and its produce shall be food for the workers of the city. The workers of the city from all the tribes of Israel shall cultivate it. The entire district shall be 25,000 cubits by 25,000 cubits foursquare. You shall set apart the holy district with the property of the city. The rest shall belong to the prince, on one side and on the other of the holy district and on the city's property, next to the 25,000 cubits of the holy district, as far as the eastern border, and westward next to the 25,000 as far as the western border, adjacent to the tribal portions. It shall belong to the prince. It shall be the holy district, and the sanctuary of the temple shall be in the centre. Moreover, apart from the possession of the Levites and the possession of the city, which are in the midst of what belongs to the prince, the area between the border of Judah and the border of Benjamin shall belong to the prince. As for the rest of the tribes, from the east side to the west, Benjamin shall have one section. By the border of Benjamin from the east side to the west, Simeon shall have one section. By the border of Simeon from the east side to the west, Issachar shall have one section. By the border of Issachar from the east side to the west, Zebulun shall have one section. By the border of Zebulun from the east side to the west, Gad shall have one section. By the border of Gad on the south side, toward the south, the border shall be from Tamar to the waters of Meribah by Kadesh, along the brook to the great sea. This is the land which you shall divide by lots as an inheritance among the tribes of Israel, and these are their portions, says the Lord God. It seems obvious that God's intention was that his plan for his people, at first given to Moses and the people of Israel after their rescue from Egypt, would be restarted with the return of his people from captivity. This included concern for the weakest members of society, as well as those who might be considered outsiders. So, to finish it today, how important is it to you that our God is a God who offers second chances, and more, even to his people who have done wrong after having had the chance to make better choices? You have been listening to a reading of the Adult Sabbath School Bible Study Guide by Dr. Percy Harold from Queensland, Australia. This service is brought to you by Hope Channel, the Sabbath School Department, and Christian Services for the Blind. Remember, God is always faithful.